We're doing a planning and zoning meeting virtual tonight. I think we have a quorum. We have Amy, myself, Adam, George, and Mike Netter. Mike, just for the record, your camera's off, which should be fine. Everybody else good. Okay, here we go. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is a special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Tuesday, December 6th. It's about 7:30 p.m. We're doing a virtual meeting via GoToMeeting. Fred Donite, myself are here in Town Hall Room 213, and everybody else is on the GoToMeeting virtual platform. Part of the reason why we're doing the virtual meeting is Jeremy Ginsburg is held up with an injured leg. So Jeremy's going to be out tonight, so Fred's here running solo with myself. So let's get right into it. The first part of our meeting is a general meeting. The first item on the general meeting agenda is amendment of special permit number 310 A as in Apple, make modern at 1985 Boston Post Road. The request to modify the previous approved hours of the business at that location. This popped up earlier this month, or actually last month in November, when Make Modern sent an email into the P&Z office about changing their hours of operation, specifically on Fridays and weekends, to be able to extend their hours to make their successful business even more successful. In your packets, you have a letter outlining everything that they're asking for. The first part of the letter talks about what they do, and then the second part of the letter asks that they change their hours to operate on Friday nights until 9:30 p.m. in the evening. As part of the process, we asked the quote-unquote tenant, the applicant, to go to their landlord to get their landlord's approval, which is Anthony Calandro from it's the owner of the building. They also control Mamma Mia's, which is the deli next door. Mama Camel's, I'm sorry, Mamma Mia's. It's a nice thing on Broadway, which is next door. So what I'd like to do is just open up to Erica and her associate from McModern and just tell her what changes they want and tell her a little bit how their business is going. I'm actually kind of excited that they first came to the Planning and Zoning Commission in 2020, and now it's 3 years into it, and they're still here and they're doing well, and they want to make some changes. Go ahead, Erica. Turn your microphone on. Welcome. Just introduce yourself and tell us what you want us to do.
Sure. Hey, I'm Erica Allen, and I have with me one of my business partners.
We're still muted.
Can you hear me now?
For some reason, not sure why that is. It looks like her microphone is open.
I can hear her.
Yeah, I can hear her.
I can hear you just fine. I see Mike is signed in twice, and Rick and Leslie Fairbanks are also on.
Just say hello. Do a sound check.
Hey, can you hear me?
Adam?
Yes, no? Yes, no?
I need you guys to speak. Amy or Adam or George or Mike.
Hey, it's Adam. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Can you hear me?
Everybody's muted.
Amy.
I can hear you, Amy.
Sounds like it's just at Steve and Fred's side.
Here we go. Got it.
Go.
Erica,
Great.
try again.
All right, Erica, can you guys hear me? Super,
Yes.
super. I got Lori Duart with me. She's one of the business partners at Make Modern. And we were hoping that you would allow us to stay open until 9:30 on Friday evening. And that is...
Sorry, excuse me. There's a ton of feedback. Rick and Leslie Fairbanks, can you mute yourselves?
We can mute it from here, can't we?
It's like a children's walkie-talkie going over what Erica's trying to say.
I think it might be Fred, actually.
I'll turn off my... Good. Try it again, Erica.
You want to try it again? All right. So when we opened, we were limited than operating hours. I can hear it too. Sorry. Any case,
Fred,
you want me to press
Fred, can you
on?
mute? Thanks.
Yep. You want me to press on? Yeah. Okay. When you guys granted us our initial permit, we were limited in operating hours until 6 o'clock on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights. We're also limited. We can't operate from 12 to 2 Monday through Friday. So there are not insignificant limitations during normal business hours for us. And it's been interesting. Believe me, we're happy to be here. We're happy to have made it through COVID. And as time has passed, the most valuable thing to us that we don't have would be Friday nights, Friday evenings, and Friday nights. Friday is our most popular enrollment day. It's the day we just went through enrollment. It fills up really quickly. And because of a 6 o'clock end time, we can only do one class instead of two on what our most popular day is. And it's also a day that we get weekly requests for people to do birthday parties for the audience we're really trying to grow, which is the little bit older kids, kind of the preteen kids. And so being able to stay open until 9:30 would allow us to have a regular class that meets starting somewhere around 5 or 5:30. And it would also allow us to open a slot for people that wanted to have parties. I don't know when that's realistically an option. I don't know how many parties we'll get. So the reality is, if you grant us the opportunity to stay open until 9:30, we'll regularly be there until about 7:30, and it would have the option if we were requested to do a party. It's a lot of money for us. We ran the numbers in preparation for this meeting, and not being able to run on Friday evenings, afternoons, and evenings is about $25,000 a year. That's a lot for a little business like us. So that's our ask. I feel like it's really a non-issue because we do children's programming, or we would be during that time. We do adults in the mornings, but we would be doing kids in the afternoons, in the evenings, and it's drop off. So to the extent there's a parking issue, it's momentary while parents that are dropping off are walking their kids in. It doesn't change the parking complexity, but for the couple of minutes in the beginning and the end. Glad to answer. We've thought about it a ton. We've talked about it a ton. You guys have been super helpful in helping us frame up what we need to do. I'm glad to answer any questions from anybody about what we do or how we're doing it or how we'd like to do it even more.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yep.
Fantastic. Okay. As part of the application way back when in 2020, we asked the applicant in conjunction with the landlord to reconfigure the parking lot. The parking lot was reconfigured in the back. The dumpsters were moved to the other side, which is closer to where now the shoe store is. If you guys remember, the tenants in the building are Make Modern, which is Erica and her partner. Mama Camara's Deli, which closes, in the afternoon. The Fancy Nail store, and then Papa John's plus the shoe store that's in there now. So the parking lot was reconfigured as per our initial approval, and also the employees and some of the guests that do go to the store or Make Modern, if we call it a store, they have the right to park across the street over in Norotan Presbyterian. We also got a letter from the landlord that says that they support the request to have them stay open on a Friday night until 9:30 p.m., which is exactly what they're asking for. And also, since the location's been open since about the middle of 2020, we've never had one complaint from anybody about parking issues there. So I don't think it's a big request on the applicant's behalf. It's not a site plan change, it's just a use change. The other thing that's going to change inside your packets, everybody, you got the resolution from September of 2020. There's the paragraph E as in Edward in the back half of the resolution. That's the only part of the application that's going to change at all. So I'll open up to any other commissioners if they have any questions on this thing. It is a general meeting item, so we don't really have to open up to the general public, but any commissioners have any questions on this, we can address those and go forward. George, you want to go first?
Steve, just quickly as a matter of background here, this building was constructed in the 1930s, and the portion of the building that Papa Joe's occupies was built around 1950 is my belief. Ever since the off-street parking regulations went into effect for the town, this site and the building has been non-conforming with respect to the parking regs. So with Papa Joe's business and their expansions throughout the year, the Zoning Board of Appeals issued variances for both the expansion of Papa Joe's in 1991, 2014. Variances were issued for the parking at that time as well. So historically, the commission has had some concerns around the availability of parking on the site. There are 87 parking spaces on the site. Actually, I take that back. There are 41 parking spaces on the site. Not all of them are marked, but there's parking for about 41 cars or vehicles on the site. And then additional parking available for vehicles on the Post Road and Garden City Road as well. The applicant also has an informal agreement with the church, No Presbyterian, for off-site overflow parking should that become necessary. Papa Joe's does have a stipulation as part of their prior approvals that staff must park off-site on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I believe Erica and Make Modern have offered to have staff park off-site if needed for their current request for Friday evenings if parking does become an issue. But that's sort of a quick little background on the history of the site, the overall concerns regarding parking over the years.
Okay. Any questions from any commissioners?
The question I had was about the dumpster relocation. And just, I was rereading your last application, about the half an hour breaks between classes, and just wanting to just generally ask how things have been going with regard for your business under the guidelines, under the old application. Everything are any of those things onerous to you?
That's it. Thank you for asking that. No, I think we are lucky in that just about everything that you asked of us is practical for our business anyway. We
Okay.
can't flip classes more quickly than 30 minutes. We have an hour and a half. When we do a birthday party, we have an hour and a half between the first birthday party and a second on the weekend. No, everything. I've got to say, everything has been just great.
Okay. Because I do like the comment that you said about that you're trying to target that preteen, a little bit older child with these changes, because I do think that's a real need in town. If you see after school dismissal of the middle school kids, and to the extent that they don't really have a home to go to, and to the extent that you can target them and capture more of them in your business, I applaud that, for sure. So I'm very good with the changes.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that my dumb old dog is barking in the background. But thank you. Yeah, we hope so too. We've actually seen, as we've been open for the past 2.5 years, the kids are getting older. Our demographic is inching up little by little, which is great for us because I think we serve the little bit older elementary and middle school kids particularly
Good.
well. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Steve, may I? Even though you're muted. Yeah, so just quickly, did you folks, you didn't have a one-off sort of event last Friday evening, did you? You were closed as usual?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
okay.
oh
couldn't
yeah.
remember.
No,
The calendar was.
no. I was there. I stayed late to work because we had a big event on Saturday morning. So
Okay, so the lights were on. I couldn't
yeah.
recall exactly what was going on, but I happened to be there. And I have to say, I could barely find a place to park. And obviously, that wasn't your doing. Apparently, that must have been Papa Joe, I guess, because I think I was the only other business. But I am reassured to be reminded that the church, Norotan Presbyterian, doesn't have any objection to you appointing folks over there to park. So the only other thing I would ask, can you make any representation about Joe Ravecchio thinks of this? Did you check in with him about it?
I did not check with
Okay.
him.
But he would not have gotten notice, I guess, right? Because this is a general meeting thing. I don't know.
He would not have gotten notice, but that's why
Go ahead, start again.
the Papa Joe's would have not gotten notice, but that's why we went to, I instructed them to go to the landlord. Because if the landlord's got, if the tenant's got a problem, the first person I'm going to call is the landlord. And then he put this letter.
The second person would be the one with all of the cars that are parking there.
Correct.
Okay, so be it. As long as there's alternative parking, I'm okay with it.
And I will say I was working on Friday night. Usually we're closed. We do a 4 to 5:30 class, and then we clean up and we're out by 6. So class is over by 5:30. We're done by 6. I'm usually not there. I had to get ready for our Saturday class, and so it gave me an opportunity to count spaces because I was there for several hours. And so it was really tight. It's 6:10. Our couple of staff people were walking out. And so we went out and counted at 6:10. And there were 4 spots at 6:10. At 7:40, there were 11 spots. And at 9:10, there were 8 billion spots. I would also say I am pretty sure that we have staff at the restaurant parked there on Friday nights in that stretch across the back.
I don't doubt your numbers. I happen to know I was there really 5:45, I guess. So your numbers may be consistent.
I think it's tighter early, and then it gets there's like a stretch in time where it's super tight. Again, the only reason anybody would park would be if they dropped their kid off and then decided to go to Papa Joe's to have dinner, right? In which case, in my book, that's a win.
I thought that was a good argument you made. I like that. That was good.
Yeah, and that happens a lot. We were talking about it. Our studio manager, we had an event during the week, and she went over when our class was over. She went up to pick up a pizza for she and I, and in the pizza place, there were 3 moms from the class we had just ended who were picking up Papa Joe's carryout to take home for their families after the class. So I'd like to believe, we had 116 birthday parties last year. At least half of them, that's a conservative estimate, at least half of them got pizza from Papa Joe's, right? I think it's a win-win. It's certainly great for us that there's a pizza place and a restaurant people want to go to and a nail salon that they want to go to while their kids are in class. I'd love to believe that the restaurant sees it the other way.
Mike, Nader, anything to add? We're
Just a
good?
quick question. Fred, do we have anything in the file regarding the allowance to park at the road Presbyterian?
From the old application we did.
Yeah, Erica states in her application materials that they do have an agreement with the Road Presbyterian. I believe it's an informal agreement. There is nothing in writing as far as I'm aware. Is that correct, Erica?
Yeah, I'm very close friends with the three pastors, and so I texted them all together in the same text and said, "Could we ever park?" And they said, "You can park anytime." And now that was it. And we've done it. We've taken advantage of that a couple of times to move our staff cars over there. I'm sure they would give you a letter if you wanted something more.
Yeah, it might be helpful just for the file. And your representation is there's really no parking anyways. It's mostly just drop off.
Right. Yeah, again, no, I mean, we had a birthday party on a Friday night. The birthday child's family would park and stay for the party. But
Sure.
believe me,
Yeah.
parents do not want to hang out at a birthday party
Yeah.
when they don't
I've done that.
And I would even argue the older demographic, they barely stop their cars for the kids to get out. So
Yeah.
that's right.
I wouldn't even be a parking situation. It would just be
Slow roll and kick them
yeah,
out.
a gondola
Row
situation.
them,
Yeah. Friday night.
Okay.
Woo.
Thank you. I'm good.
Yeah.
Hold on.
You good? All right. So as I said, the only change to the
No one can hear you.
you're on now.
Okay, go ahead now.
The only change to the resolution that's in hand is going to be paragraph E. So with that said, there's no other comments. I would entertain a motion to approve the request from the applicant. Someone make that motion. Adam makes a motion. Amy makes a second. All's in favor? Fantastic. You're all set, Erica.
Hey, great.
You're going to send them a letter? We'll just send them a letter and adjust this thing. We don't have to vote on this thing.
Yes, we'll send you a letter in the next few days to early next week.
You're all set. Thank you, Erica and Lori.
Thank you.
Good luck.
so much.
Keep going.
Thank you. Thanks all.
All right, done.
Fred, there is some kind of noise coming from your computer when other people are talking.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to continue to.
Well, this isn't working too well. There we go. Can you hear me now? Fantastic. All right. Next item on the agenda is amendment to coastal site plan review number 291A is an Apple flood damage prevention application number 407, land filling regrading application number 311A, John and Charlotte Suhler at 200 Long Neck Point Road. Request to modify the previous approved plans. We looked at these plans back in, 2002, I think it was, Steve?
Yeah, 2021, the commission approved a project at 200 Long Neck Point Road for a new pool equipment, stormwater management system. The property's in the flood zone. However, most of the improvements are located outside of the flood zone. The engineer for this project, Harry Rocheville, submitted a request several weeks ago to make some minor adjustments to the commission's approval in 2021, including some slight revisions to the pool, relocation of pool equipment on the property, as well as resizing and changing the orientation of the proposed stormwater management on the site to accommodate the changes that are proposed here. If the commission has any questions for Harry, he is here tonight to answer your questions.
Right. Let's, so Harry, what I'd like you to do is just go through the application. This was the application where we give the applicant a 2-year approval to build all this stuff. It's an existing house. All they're doing is adding a pool and a pool house in the back. Mr. Suhler wanted to be able to get back to his new pool house from the front house. It's a beautiful home. So Harry, the only thing I need you to do is just explain the changes from the new to the old, and then we can move on down the road. We got your letter, everything makes sense, but it really doesn't highlight the difference between the new and the old is what I really care about. Okay?
Sure. Would
Take
you
it
like
away.
me to share my screen? It'd probably be easier for everyone that way. Okay. Let me know when you can see my screen here. Okay. All right. So the plan that we're looking at here was the approved plan back in, as Fred said, June 2021. The project then, as it is now, is a new pool house, pool, and hardscape in the rear of the residence that is terraced down from an existing landscaped area here. So there's 2 steps down, one from this terrace, and then a middle area here, and then it will terrace down to the pool house, pool and hardscape area. The pool then, as it is now, is an infinity pool, which will have a 4-foot edge, and it's designed to work with the existing grade on both sides of the pool. The pool then had a sewer connection that will be tied into the existing sewer connection on the property, low pressure system in Long Neck Point. And at the time that was approved by Darien DPW. For stormwater management, we are using a first flush approach for water quality as we are in a coastal area. If you recall at the time, there's an existing rain garden on the property that was built when the house was constructed. Since then, it has essentially not been maintained and slightly filled in over time. So what we're proposing to do to mitigate our impacts to construction now, as well as fix the existing issues with drainage, we are proposing to replace that rain garden with an underground detention system that is capable of handling the first flush for both the existing house and driveway, which run to the current rain garden, as well as our newly proposed area, which is the pool house, hardscape, and pool. There would be some roof leaders that would need to be rerouted for the currently approved application, which is shown here, and it is all routed around the pool area to the stormwater system. So that's what was approved back then. And you'll see there's the limited disturbance is essentially at this 14-foot contour line, which is the flood zone.
Harry?
Sure, yeah.
Was the rain garden taken out in the last approval? I don't remember.
They haven't constructed anything yet. So nothing's been done on the property since the original.
Right, but when we approved it in 2020, was the rain garden supposed to be taken out then?
Yes, so the plan I was just going over was the approved plan, and I'm going to show you the differences now. So at the time, the rain garden was coming out and being replaced with underground detention, which is what I was just showing you. So now you'll see our current proposal, which will answer your question. There's the rain garden still being replaced.
Harry froze. Wow. This isn't going so well. Harry froze, right? That's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah, no, I think he lost the connection.
Yeah, Harry's totally gone.
I say we just vote to approve it.
Yeah, he's probably just signing off and signing back in. Give him 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's just a general meeting.
I'm sorry. I think I lost you guys there for a second. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You start to pull up the new plan, and that's when you zoned out.
Yes, let me share my screen again. Sorry about that. I don't know what just happened. Okay, so back to where I was. The currently proposed plan, to answer your question, Chairman, we're still proposing an underground detention system to replace the rain garden. It is of equivalent size. It is just being shifted over and reoriented to be 4 rows instead of 3 to better fit with the new pool. Same as before, we're stepping down from the existing terrace to a pool hardscape and a smaller pool house, all generally in the same location, all well outside the flood zone elevation, which is here 14. And I had mentioned when reviewing the approved plan, the limited disturbance is this 14-foot contour here, which is the flood zone. So that essentially remains the same. The only difference is we need to run a gravity line from an area drain that'll be located at the base of these stairs here, because the pool equipment now will be located in a room under the terrace. So to just alleviate any ponding in this area during storms, we have a small gravity line that'll be outletted at elevation 13, which is 1 foot into the flood zone, but there will not be any fill associated with that. It will just be an underground pipe to daylight, which will seawater, very infrequently, only when it rains, and in very little amount. It's just a 3x5 landing there, so very small area. And then same thing on this currently proposed plan. It is an infinity edge, about 4 foot wide, designed to work with existing grade on both sides of the property, so no changing in the graded, no significant changes of the grading on the side property lines. As I mentioned, stormwater is essentially the same, just slightly reoriented, and it's an equivalent proposed increase in impervious area as before. And then same thing with sewer. There will be a bathroom in this pool house. Will be connected to a new E1 pump and connected to the existing low pressure line for the house out to the system in Long Neck Point Road. That essentially summarizes all the changes. So the main ones are just the different layout for the pool house hardscape, but again, generally the same location and size. The pool equipment will be located in a basement room under the terrace now, and as opposed to at grade. And the stormwater management system is reoriented and slightly located, but still of a adequate volume to handle the first flush runoff from the existing house, existing driveway, and our proposed improvements as the approved application did. Same thing with soil and erosion controls, silt fence, and hay bales on the downgrading side of construction to protect the Long Island Sound during construction, and no impact to coastal resources as a result of these changes. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that anyone has.
Okay, Harry, the big thing is, what's the change of percentage of
The problem is this thing takes forever to unmute, so go ahead.
Do you do now? What's the
I can hear
change
you.
in impervious surface now in terms of percentage? It's going from what to what?
Oh, from a zoning aspect, I'm not sure. I don't have that number in front of me. I have it from a drainage perspective, but not from a zoning regulation.
But in terms of, we're not even remotely close to the threshold, right? Because I'm looking at your new plans. There's no lot coverage percentage on it.
No, that would be on the proposed survey we would submit. That's not on our plans, but as you said, I don't think it's okay.
All right, then the second question is, with regards to pool equipment, what level is it going to be at? Is it going to be below 13 or at 13 when it's supposed to be 14?
It's going to be at the room's going to be at 15 below the terrace. There's a spot shot on our plan. Yeah. So I zoom in right here. This drain is at 15, and that'll go into the room. So actually, it'll be at 15.5.
Okay.
Step up there.
Okay.
We don't have a zoning location survey for the proposed changes that Harry submitted, but from 2021, the coverage that was approved by the commission came out to 11.3%, so way below the 20% coverage.
It's 20. It's okay. That's fine. Okay, I'm fine. Any questions to the commissioners? Mike, want to go first? You're all the way to the right. You good?
Yeah, just you said in your presentation that the drainage facility, the containment facility was similar to what was proposed before. Is it smaller, bigger?
That's right.
Same
It's essentially the same size, but it's 4 rows instead of 3, but 4 shorter rows as opposed to 3. Just as you can see here, we had a smaller area to squeeze it in. This is the new one with the 4 rows. In the previously approved one here had the 3 rows. We had a little bit more space to work with here. I think there was. I said it in my my letter here. Yeah, it's of the same size. It's just those 4 rows are 4 equivalent rows to the 3 with the longer ones that were proposed previously.
Okay. And then, yeah, no, that's fine. I get it. So, and then the impervious surface area, you said from a drainage perspective, you know what the difference is from the previously proposed to this one. What is that from a drainage perspective?
Yep. So there's about 800 square feet more for this proposal from the previously approved.
And that 800
and
square
most
feet.
of that is the pool. The pool is larger, and we're taking that as a impervious surface. We'll have the 6 inches of storage in the pool. I think the pool is 500 square feet bigger itself than previously, so most of that is the pool. But it will still all be captured and sent to the drainage system that is still adequately sized for that first flush in the coastal area.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my question, is if it's still adequately sized with the 800 more feet, but you answered it. Thank you.
No problem. And we have an appendix in our updated engineering summary that that shows that water quality calculation.
George, any questions, sir? Okay, Amy? Good, Adam? There we go, fantastic. Okay, it seems like a simple change. They're changing the cul-de-sacs to be more rows but shorter, making the pool a little bit bigger, and putting the pool equipment underground inside some kind of locker. So with that said, I would entertain a motion to approve as requested. Amy makes a motion, Mike makes a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Fantastic. Thanks, Harry. You're all set.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much. Thank you for bearing with me there.
No sweat, man. We're moving forward. It's a bonus meeting. It's a December bonus meeting. All right. Next item on the agenda is deliberations only regarding coastal site plan review number 369, A as in Apple, Darien flood damage prevention application number 428A, land filling regrading application number 538, Abigail and William Hausberg at 6 Pratt Island. I'm also going to open the other one that's related to it, which is coastal site plan review number 155A, flood damage prevention application number 159A, land filling regrading application number 539A at 8 Pratt Island LLC at 8 Pratt Island. The first one is proposal to regrade the southwest portion of the property to create a flat area integrating the property with 8 Pratt Island while preserving the separate lots and perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The hearing closed last Tuesday, which is November 29th. The second one is to propose to raise the existing residence, construct a new 3-bedroom single-family dwelling on generally the same location, construction of a new driveway, patio and terrace areas, and a new pool and spa, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including the regrading of the property, installation of stormwater management. the applicant proposed to integrate the lot with 6 Pratt Island while preserving the separate lots. The hearing closed on November 29th. This application was shown to the commission last Tuesday, the 29th. It's the family that owns 2 houses on Pratt Island, which is on the at the end of the Norotan Bay section of town. The plan is the main house, which is 6 Pratt Island, which is in the front, is going to be connected better optically and land-wise or lawn-wise with the new house that's going to be redeveloped at 8 Pratt Island. I read all the materials, but I was not at the hearing, so we can go over this. Anything to add on this one? The one thing that I wanted them to do, which I guess was not possible, was to there's a bunch of fill that's going to be brought into the site to fill in the land. My suggestion was to bring it in by barge versus going down near Water Lane and into the bay and down Pratt Island, because it's a little bit tough, but apparently that may not be possible. Anything to add on this one, Fred, real quick?
Yeah, I think the commission's, one of the main concerns that I heard during the hearing was the volume of fill coming onto the site. I believe it was 18 or 1900 square feet of cubic yards of material coming onto the site. I believe the applicant indicated that due to the conditions at the water, that they weren't able to bring material onto the site via a barge, and they would have to truck the material in from the roadways. Of course, it's going to result in some significant disturbance and impact to the neighborhood over the period of time that this construction takes place. So in other similar projects, most recently 122 Delafield Island, the commission has placed some stipulations with respect to truck traffic, and that may be something that the commission wants to consider here.
The other thing you got to remember too is at the top of the road going into the bay is Henley School. So you also have truck traffic going in front of Henley School all the way down past the beach, down past the Weed Beach entrance, then into Norotan Bay, then past the Norotan, the Bay Beach Club, whatever that is called, and then into the Pratt Island District. So that's something I have to make sure is correct. I would like to research the barge issue again. But if the experts didn't say they could bring it in, they couldn't bring it in. But those are the main concerns. So let's go around the horn. Any big ones on this one, Adam? You want to go first?
I mean, they're adding a lot of fill to the property, right? So I know it's not in our, we can't approve or disprove of it, but like, it feels to me like if you're going to pour a slab on top of this much fill in 10 years, that thing is going to be moving all over the place. And the house is going to become, it's very close to structurally unsound. Like, they're not adding in a foot or two. They're bringing in like 8 or 9 feet of fill to really raise the thing up. So that's my biggest concern. It's a lot of fill. Like they said, it's okay, but I don't know. It just seems like something that much dirt you're putting underneath, and you're building a house on top. It's going to move around a lot. So I don't know how we can possibly control for that in the future, but they said it's possible.
Did the engineers sign off on it in terms of footings? Because once you put it in the fill, then you're putting in footings. It goes down to, it's supposed to go down to bedrock, and go through the fill you just put in. But I don't remember seeing that on the.
I don't think I saw that.
Yeah, the engineer did sign off on it, and Race Coastal Engineering submitted a report for the record as well, indicating that the fill would not result any impact to flooding on the property, wave height.
Yeah, but that's not what he's asking. He's not asking that. Okay. Amy, any questions on this one?
Yeah, during the applicant's presentation, I asked the question, you know, were there any road restrictions for the private association? And you know, it's a private rule versus our own ordinances. So I was surprised that there was nobody from Norotan Bay that came to the hearing. They're a pretty plugged in group, and when they're not afraid of, you know, voicing their concerns if there's something that they're concerned about. And I just want to make sure part of this application, they were all notified, the 100-foot abutters. Is that who was notified for this application?
Does the Road Bay Association get notified?
The association itself did not get notified. No, it was property owners within 100 feet of 6 and 8 Pratt Island.
And the causeway that brings them all the way over to 6 and 8 basically eliminates 100 feet, and I would guess it eliminates most of the other neighborhood. I don't know how. Do we have a list of who was notified? I just want to make sure we're hearing from the neighbors. And the only other thing that kind of my spidey sense went up was when the engineer from Race mentioned that this was the 4th iteration that she has gone through to get comfortable with signing off on the wave implications to, you know, the site and to neighbors, et cetera. Clearly she is signing off, and they kept working hard, I guess, to make sure that they got to a place that they were comfortable with. But it sounded like they had to work hard to get there. You know, I'm fairly new to the commission. It seems like a lot of fill to me. You know, I can appreciate when Wilder equated the truck traffic to be something very similar to Delafield that we've recently approved, but it wasn't trucks that bringing in fill. It was, you know, not. I'm just a little concerned.
Just for the record, nobody in Norotan Bay was notified. The only people that were notified were on Nash Island and Pratt Island. So that's in accordance with what they had to do because the lots are bigger, which is your point.
Yep.
You know,
I mean, they met the regulations, they met the requirements, so it's not like they were trying to pull a fast one. I understand that.
No, you're going with the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law.
Yep.
I got you. No, it matters, and that's why at the outset I mentioned the school that's at the top of near water main, but also with regards to title, there's Pratt Island, Delafield Island's different in terms of title. You can get stuck in Scotts Cove on a boat in high tide. You know, this has got a deeper profile than Delafield Island, but Delafield Island is different. But we're going to go over that in a little bit because I don't know how they can bring a dock in on a barge, but they can't bring in dirt in on a barge. That to me doesn't make sense. But anyway, your point's well taken. Mike Netter, anything on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Amy and Adam. You know, I think they agreed that they would be amenable to a stipulation on repair and, I guess, replacement if necessary of the roads for any damage that they cause. So I think that should be part of the stipulation if we are going to approve. And the other thing that really bothered me is bringing that much fill in and keeping it on site during a storm event. I asked the question. The engineer said, "Yeah, it's going to be fine," but I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of dirt to put on a piece of property, and then you have a storm come through, and it's all in Long Island Sound. So maybe a stipulation that they have to, remediate if that happens, or something to that effect.
What's the time? Because I mean, I guess where you're going is you can start to bring in piles and piles of dirt and dump them there, and not quote unquote spread it out. So while it's in a pile, it's not spread out and situated where it's supposed to be. That seems like it's a concern.
Right, or even when it's spread out. I mean, I did work in my yard. We put down some topsoil for grass seed in less than 3 inches, and we had a storm, and it all flowed back into my drainage ditch at the back of my yard. I mean, until you get grass and something growing on it.
Right. So it's not stabilized with grass growing on it or hay growing on it, then it's subject to getting moved out by a storm. Okay. George,
there's certainly erosion controls that get put in place, of course, during the construction process, and the hope is that those erosion controls are enough to control that problem until the site gets stabilized, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the other applicants put in erosion matting, which they didn't have in this application. Sort of a mat that you put over the while you're waiting for the vegetation to grow. And they didn't have that in this application. That might be worth looking at.
I've seen that. Yeah, that's they put some of those things railroad ties, but not they're like tires put together to hold it in place. You're gonna say something or cut you off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reviewing my notes and looking back at what was presented before. I mean, I can appreciate that they're taking a 5,300 square foot home that's there now and decreasing the footprint and creating a 2,900 square foot house. The new residence is going to be, in compliance with all the FEMA regulations. All of those things are all at, in the plus column in my mind. But and then they're elevating the house, the new structure with fill. That's not the only way to elevate a structure. So I guess my concern is I can appreciate that there's so many things that they are improving. But my biggest concern is about the fill.
Yeah, you're not the only one. George, want to add in something now?
The last two comments picked up on a couple of things I was going to say. I generally have a somewhat more positive attitude on this. I did want to highlight that even if Norotan Bay wasn't individually notified, the Darien Times has published these notices, and I can't believe nobody in Norotan Bay wouldn't have noticed. I do think net is about as a positive. It's a smaller structure, less impervious. So I can't argue with engineers. I just think this is a very valuable property, and I can't believe they're not going to do it right. So I defer to them.
Okay. So do we need to get any more? The hearing's closed, so you really can't get any more information.
Correct.
You can get clarification from Wilder, can you? Or we can put it. We can still put it in, like Mike Netter's, matting, stabilizing. That we can just put that as a condition.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. You want to blow the pipe down to us to find out one of those guys?
Yeah, I mean we can run it by DPW. We can, of the materials that have been submitted as part of the record, we can ask for, some clarification on a number of things. But in terms of requesting additional or new information for the record at this point,
can't do that.
Can't do that. The hearing's been closed.
Great.
Can we have them post the bond for the roads the same way we do like the planting bonds?
We posted a bond. There's a bonds posted for Delafield Island. That's what we want to talk about. So, but the roads on Pratt Island it's 100 yards long. The roads in Norotan Bay is different, and then when you come out of Norotan Bay, you're on Darien Town roads.
Yep.
I wasn't at this hearing, and I get it, but there's a lot of trucks. The same exact thing came up on Delafield Island, but that was the neighbors came out of the woodworks on that one. I want to figure out the barge thing.
Personally, I'd love to just have it. I'm looking back through my notes that September 2nd, did Darren make a review of the application? And was there specifically any discussion from his part on Phil?
Okay, Fred's looking at the file now. We would have gotten the Darren House to find email, right?
Right. Connecticut Deep commented fairly extensively on the volume of fill being proposed for the site in terms of DPW and Darren.
What is it in this one?
It might be. There's a couple different files for this.
Sorry, guys. These are old letters from the people next door. Today, the people next door come up.
I think the neighbors had a letter of support, didn't they?
Yeah, there are a couple letters of support from the neighbors.
They are their own neighbor.
Yeah.
Right, they're their own neighbor. However, the neighbor to the other side also sent in a letter of support.
Yeah.
Because they're going to want to raise theirs.
There aren't that many houses on Pratt Island.
What's that, George?
I said there are not that many houses on Pratt Island. You've heard from a lot of them.
Yeah, no, they're not. Rich Taminetti. They got Rich's. I don't have Darren's.
Yeah, I am unfortunately not seeing Darren's comments as part of the record right now. I can pull those out and let you know what those are. We can take the deliberations further down the line on this one too, if that's what the commission would like to do this evening.
Yeah, we can keep deliberating on this one and looking at the file again. It's just there's got to be a good way to get this done right, and I want to make sure Darren has any ideas. Who was the person that said you can't bring the fill in by George? What are the engineers?
I believe Race indicated in their testimony that the barge wasn't an option because of the depth of the water, something along those lines. Just taking a look at their letter here.
So this one.
Honestly, if they're willing to repair the roads and repair any damage, I don't know. I don't see any reason to not let them just truck it in. I'm just worried about what happens when it gets there. And Fred, to be clear, I don't want to have them do work that's unnecessary, but it seems to me you're putting a lot of fill right next to Long Island Sound. So if they bond over it or do something to that effect, I've got no problem with it.
It's just the reason why they're doing so much fill, because when we went out there and looked at it, it's mostly to flatten out the lawn between the two houses, and then to set the foundation for the new house, for the replacement house.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
in the hearing, Steve, the amount of fill going to level out the lot is like barely a quarter of it. All the fill is going to the foundation of the house. So they even tried to phase it as it's going to be like 3 distinct phases, but realistically, like 80% of the fill comes in at once for the foundation, and then the rest of it is sort of for the property leveling. So
Okay.
it's not just a lot of fill, it's a lot of fill all at once, day after day, truck after truck, week after week. It's going to take like a month or two of fill.
And the fill is to literally fill the hole that is being created when they take out the old house. Yeah.
I'm sorry, say that again, George, I missed it.
Just, I think at least to half of the fill area is going to be where the old house was, and they're taking that out. So they're gonna have a hole there. They got to fill, literally.
Okay. There's a pool there too.
Right.
All right. If you guys don't mind, I would like to extend the deliberation before these guys start drafting stuff, or we could have them start drafting it, and then we can look at it again. But I would like to get Darren Ostafein's letter and make sure that's fine. So if we extend it, is that okay by everybody?
Yeah, and specifically since this application was open so long ago and there was extension after extension and it kept getting pushed, I'd like an opportunity to make sure we have the extensive record when I deliberate the next time. And my apologies if I'm not prepared, but I feel like there's some unanswered questions in my mind.
We get 60 days, right?
Yeah, we have 65 days from the close of the public hearing to decide on the application.
Okay. So that's that. We're going to deliberate on this one another time in January, either the 10th or what's the next date? The 24th.
The 24th.
We still have time. All right, great. Let's move on down the road. The next item on the agenda is deliberation of possible decisions regarding the following. Land filling and regrading application number 540, Henry and Alyson Johnson at 573 Middlesex Road. Proposes to construct a new pool and associated patio areas and perform related site development activities, including regrading the property, installation of stormwater management. The hearing closed on November 15th, 2022. I think Mike Netter, I think you're recused on this one? Yes. Okay, great. So Mike's out on this one, so it's just Amy, Adam, and George. Okay, this is the proposed pool that's basically across the house that's down the end of a long driveway that's across the street from the Oxridge Racket and Riding Club and Highland Farms. We referred this one to an outside consultant for peer review, Joe Canis, because of staffing and timing problems. And Joe Canis made a couple changes, and they were all addressed by the applicant. So in your package, you guys got a draft resolution. We got comments from neighbors. Joe Canis said what he said. And then at the end of the day, it's going to be as-built survey. It's pretty much just a pool at the end of a long driveway that backs up to Oxridge School. Any questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors on this draft? Amy's good. George, give me a thumbs up. Adam, give me a thumbs up. Okay. Let's look for a motion to approve the draft resolution as submitted. Adam makes a motion. Looking for a second. Amy makes a second. All in favor? 4-0. Fantastic. 4-0. One abstention and one not here. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Coastal site plan review number 317, flood stem prevention application number 364, land filling and regrading application number 402, Delafield Island LLC at 1822 Delafield Island Road. Proposal to construct a new 5-bedroom single-family dwelling on a now vacant lot with associated terrace areas, a swimming pool and spa and driveway / parking court. Restore the existing seawall, replace the pier, gangway, and floating dock, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including the regrading of the property, installation of stormwater management, and a new septic system. The hearing closed on my son's birthday, November of October 25th, 2022. In your packet, you got the new resolution dated December 6th, 2022. And as a supplement, added to the record was the application or the resolution dated June 6, 2017, which is about 5.5 years old. This is, again, a house. Oh, Mike Netter's back for the record, back in the hearing. This is an application that started probably somewhere around 2014. I think the lot sold. Somebody clear cut the lot in 2014. A couple years after that, they came in with a resolution, with a plan to develop a 5-bedroom house on it. We put all kinds of bells and whistles on that with regards to traffic and trucking and bringing stuff in there. A lot of the new draft resolution is the same as the old draft resolution, specifically, in the back end, which is got to do with construction, with issues during construction. The one item that we do have to come up with, which is X'd out on this one, is the amount of the bond that we want to put them up. If you look on page 7, item B, the bond shall be placed prior to the issuance of zoning permit for the improvements. The performance bond is for the landscaping, tree replacement, environmental restorations. That, again, dates back to 2014 when they clear cut the lot. So with that overview, any questions, comments, or concerns or typos in this one? You want to go first, Adam?
No, I didn't see any typos or anything, and the plans were fine. So I'm happy with it. I'm not sure how we quantify the bond. I saw the X's. That was maybe my only comment. Like, there's no number there. So I don't know if we do what the standard is for. Do we have them put forth an estimate of the trees, and then we ask for that much on the bond, or I don't know what we normally do for that amount. But other than that, no, I don't have any real issue with this.
Okay.
Yeah, back in 2017, the landscape architect at that time, Wesley Stout, had provided an estimate for the restoration of the vegetation that was cut. If you refer to page 4 of the draft resolution, finding number 21 and 22 details the vegetation and trees that were cut on the site without approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Within the Coastal Area Management Review Area, 217 tree stumps were removed. And then in 2017, the applicant at that time developed a restoration plan to restore the vegetation and trees that were cut. At that time, it became clear that the applicant was not going to be redeveloping the property. Instead, he had decided to sell the property, or the entity decided to sell the property. However, they did develop a plan to stabilize the site, and at that time, I believe, 147 trees were planted, 180 shrubs and 50 perennials. So a fair amount of planting was done at that time to stabilize the site. The current applicant had come in with a plan to plant an additional, I believe, 68 new trees, and that's detailed in finding number 23. So if you take the 68 trees proposed by the applicant today versus the restoration and stabilization that was done in 2017 and 2018, that you're starting to get pretty close to that 217 number, the vegetation and trees.
Let's go back for a second. The bond in the old resolution was $165,000.
Yes.
Was any of that ever posted?
I believe, yes, it was posted.
Did they get any of it back?
I believe that it's been returned.
But they didn't do all, they didn't
if I'm
do,
not mistaken.
but they didn't do everything they were supposed to do.
Well, correct, yes.
Because finding
They
22
never-
says they deferred it. They never built the house.
They never implemented the plan.
Right. But they did something. Right?
Yes.
The following the vegetation restoration was received by planning zone on behalf of the applicant, which is what talk about 22.
Yeah.
So if they posted $165,000 bond and only did half of it, then they can't get all $165,000 back.
I'll need to confirm specifically what happened with the bond.
You need to?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of sort of an answer on the bond. Anything else
Well,
besides that you have?
What is the question concerning the bond? What do we want to protect?
How much should it be today?
I know, but what is it we would want to be able to apply the money to?
The bond originally was for the restoration of the stuff that they clear cut back in 2014.
Originally is not relevant to this application, is it?
Agreed. So that's what it was. That was what it was for, and it was supposed to be for $165,000.
Yeah, I don't see the relevance of that.
Yeah, other than the fact that the commission, in connection with the 2017 approval, wanted to restore the vegetation that was cut. So the previous approval, the previous 2017 approval was entered into the record by the applicant.
But it was amended in 2018.
Well, in 2018, the stabilization plan was put forth by the applicant at that time. And the stabilization plan consisted of the 147 trees, the 180 shrubs, and 50 perennials that were planted at that time.
Isn't our mission now to be sure that the landscape plan which was submitted to us with their architect, that is implemented?
The current one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I have no idea what the value of that is, but I'm sure it's well in six figures.
So why don't we just say 50 grand, right? If the original bond was 165, that's 200 now for inflation. And in terms of this application, as George is saying, it's about 50 out of 200 trees. So take a quarter of 200 and post 50 grand, and that should cover the plantings for this application.
Well, my point was that's not a fair foundation on which to base this, because I don't care about the 168 trees. I'm interested in the landscape plan, which I think is much more involved in that. As I say, I'm sure it's well into six figures. I don't think 50 grand would do the plantings around the house.
But part of that landscape plan that would put you into that numerical figure would include a lot of hardscape with regards to their terracing and their walls and other things. So I can appreciate that it would be significantly more than $165,000. But the question is, what are we trying to guarantee performance of?
Right. I mean, the performance bond is for landscaping, tree replacement, environmental restoration.
Okay.
That's what it's for. Right. So
it doesn't relate to the roads, for example, or any of the stormwater management or any of that stuff. That's not related. Okay.
No.
Roads are Delafield's problem.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and the old performance bond is still required for the same. It's the same exact sentence: landscaping, tree replacement, environmental restoration.
We can try and get a sense of what the value of that landscape plan is, and use that as a bond amount.
I think we would need to get. I mean, if that's what we're trying to guarantee performance of, I think that's a logical question, is to understand what that amount is.
But this is just a site plan. We haven't even seen the house yet. Right? Okay. I got George. I got Amy. Mike, now, do you want to add to this? Questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I would just set it at the 165. Why wouldn't we? We did it before. Why not just stick with our original plan? And George, I disagree. I think it is to complete the original plan. I think that is relevant to this, but also to do the additional planting that they're proposing. So why wouldn't we just set it at the same amount? I mean, bonding.
Did that original plan include a house? I don't know.
Yes.
In 2017?
Can I ask a
This
question?
was just for the landscaping, George.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was to
question-
remedy the clear cut. I don't know.
Do we normally, is it a fairly common practice to require performance bonds, number one? And number two, in the history of this application, did we require it because the applicant that was in front of you at the time was the guy who clear cut the property? And so you were a bit, like you have to, you got to step up and fix this. So now I can appreciate, now we have a new applicant in front of us that has had no bad behavior to date. And he's coming in and clearly trying to build make a big investment in this property. So number one, is it relevant now to ask for the performance bond is my first question, considering he isn't the guy with the bet that clear cut the property. And that we don't feel like, do we normally ask this kind of guarantee on performance? If this was just, he was coming forward with trying to put forth a new landscaping plan, would we require that?
The answer is a part of yes or no. The bond was required in the last application to restore the property. So we don't know if it was, me personally, I didn't go out there again the second time. So I don't know if it was restored or not restored.
It was restored.
I went out there, but quite honestly,
the restoration plan was implemented, and of the 147 trees that were included as part of that stabilization plan by the applicant at that time, those trees, the shrubs, the trees, the perennials, they were all planted.
Right, so we have to find out if the $165,000 bond was posted and if the $165,000 bond was returned. Right, that's the question. Because to your point, if the thing's been restored, they're not going to restore it a second time.
Well, it was a partial restoration. What the commission approved and what was done were two separate things.
Because it got amended in 2018.
Right. And it wasn't amended by the commission. It was a letter from the applicant to the planning and zoning office at that time that the applicant, the attorney's, the applicant's attorney, Bob Maslin, had indicated in a letter that the applicant had no interest in proceeding with the redevelopment of the property. However, they wished to stabilize the property with additional vegetation and to allow a new applicant in the future to propose additional landscaping at that time to meet their needs.
Meet our needs, the requirements.
To meet our needs as well as the applicant's needs.
Okay, so it's still an open issue. What else? With the notes that I had is, I'm going to go back to this trucking thing. In finding number 25, it says environmentalists testified that the filling and building equipment and materials cannot be delivered on barges due to the shallow waters, depths, and otherwise environmental concerns. And then you get down to number 27. The new dock is supposed to be installed by a barge. So how come you can bring in equipment by a barge to put in a dock and put in footings and pilings and all that stuff, but you can't put the other construction materials on the barge? It's a disconnect.
Probably a weight issue.
Yeah, and like
right?
machinery.
the soil's gonna be a lot heavier than a piece of docking. And you probably, I mean, if you think about it, if you're offloading from a barge, you've got to then swing it over the water. You're probably more likely to contaminate the sound by delivering it from a barge.
Yeah, a contractor that I know just worked on a house in Norwalk that's on an island, and they barged out stuff there every single day to it, and there was a boom on the barge and a boom on the property, that all the stuff went out on the barge, they swung it over on the boom and put it on the island.
But they didn't have an option. It was an island.
Exactly. No, you're dead on right. I hear you.
So I don't know. Fred, was there any testimony on trucking as a preferable method, or does anyone know that question? Answer that question.
There was testimony put into the record as part of the 2017 application that.
But it's also on number 24 and 25.
Right.
That's got nothing to do with this one.
Well, the 2017 decision was entered as part of the record.
Yeah.
So,
and that's where the issues during construction, letter E and F are, I believe, to that point on restrictions on the roadways, which, quite honestly, in my mind, satisfies the public comments that we did hear at this hearing. So I don't see the need to require them to do change their method of delivery.
The only thing that I would add to that is it's E&F right. That was something that the neighbors were adamant about, and we put it, and still, if it was required then, it's required now. The only difference between 5.5 years ago and today is technology. I mean, the people have come up with better ways to build a mousetrap, so maybe there's a different way to get stuff on site without going down the roads. That to me is what's changed.
I mean, at least the difference though with this application versus Pratt Island is that we heard from a number of neighbors, both their immediate neighbor and a couple different people on Delafield who were right at the lip of where sort of this turn goes out, and they were all supportive of the application. So I feel like at least here, the neighbors are certainly a little bit more aware of the amount of work that's going to be being done on this property versus Pratt Island, where it doesn't seem like really anybody has any idea of the scope.
Agreed.
Like I don't know that a barge is necessary, and I don't think it was nearly as much fill, but
Yeah, this new house on Delafield Island could be smaller than the new house on that was in 2017. Let me ask you another left field question. What's going on with the osprey out there? Is that osprey not nesting there anymore?
The osprey is not on the site anymore.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Nope.
So that whole thing went away.
Yep.
Okay. So this one, no one has any typos or questions or comments on this one other than what we're talking about relative to barging and the bond amount.
Correct.
So either we hold off on the bond amount and punt it for another week, or we come up with a number and put it in there, because that's the only thing that's left open on this one.
Is it another week or another month?
To determine the bond amount.
Right. If we go to January 10th.
Right.
It's not it's a month, but it's January 10th. It's not a week.
I mean, we could say 165 with inflation is 200 and just call it, and we can sign off on this tonight.
I don't disagree. What's that, George?
I think 200 would be fine by me.
But my only concern is was half the work done or not? That's what I don't know. It sounds like half the work was done.
Yeah, I mean, a substantial amount of that restoration plan was already implemented by the prior applicant.
So then staff can release half the bond if half the work was done.
I think they already released all of it.
No, but I mean, if we put in a new $200,000 bond, staff just releases half of it, and I have no problem with that. But
I think
Amy and I
you'll
are
find
new, so.
the new landscaping plan in this application is over 200,000.
All right, so let's do that. Let's put it at 200 grand. And then if it gets kicked back by Weiler, it gets kicked back. He's not afraid to come back to us in a week and say, hey, you know.
Right, this is Bob Maslin. Yeah, but yes.
Oh, Weiler, he'd do the same thing. Yeah. Right? If not, it gets punted until January 10th, and we're still at the same spot. Right? Okay, we'll do that. Adam's the bond analyst, and he got inflation numbers in his head, so he said 200 grand. Okay, that's $200,000. All right. With that said, the only change in here is the $200,000 number. Everything else is fine. So I'll look for a motion to approve the draft resolution as amended. Mike makes the motion, and George, you making a second or no? George makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Fantastic. All right. It is now 8:57. Next item, Chairman's report regarding accomplishments for 2021, 2022, and initiatives for 2023. I don't really have a chairman's report to give you guys tonight. The state of the town speech or address is next Tuesday in town hall. So we're drafting a speech that's going to talk about that. The only thing that this goes back to homework from a couple months ago is the initiatives for 2023 in draft. I don't know if anybody submitted any things that they want us to focus on for next year. We can still do that if we want to. The initiatives are on here, bi-monthly, by quarters and whatnot. The only thing that I want to do is item G, as in George, move that up higher on the scale, or on the list. It's something that I've been working on, and because I work in other towns, I just went to Westport last week, and I went to Greenwich a week ago. Westport's got all brand new crosswalks on Main Street and Elm Street in their town, and the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission said that it cost, $18 a square foot for all the stuff that they did, was paid by town funds for their crosswalks. There was $55,000. And if you go to Westport and look at that stuff, it looks fantastic. And if it is budget season, and we can put something forth and get the people in the selectman's office to move that forward, and it's finished the same time Corbin District is done, I think that would be a great bonus. And like I said earlier, it's ironic. In Greenwich, it's at the corner of Greenwich Avenue and Elm Street, and in Westport, it's at the corner of Main Street and Elm Street. I don't know, maybe every town's got an Elm Street on it, but we don't. So, any questions on this on page 3 of the draft?
I just,
Good, Mike.
I'd like to expand the sidewalks to more of the town. One of the really nice things about New Canaan is it's completely walkable, not just the downtown. And I think as a planning and zoning commission, we should be thinking about, walkability, bikeability. I've nearly killed probably 100 bikers on Stephen Mather heading to work. I mean, it's none of the roads are wide enough to accommodate this. And if we set up walkways and bikeways, I think we'd be doing a great service to the town. So I'd like that to be part of our plan.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. The one thing I can do, and I don't want to, spend too much time dwelling on it tonight, but if you look around Norotan Heights, all the sidewalks on Norotan Heights in the new federal project are done. And the town of Darien did one side of the street, and the federal did the other side of the street. If you go from the old Louis, which is soon to be Rico's Pizza, that takes you all the way basically to Tokenique School on a brand new sidewalk. So the Public Works Department is really doing a great job on sidewalks. I want to be able to support them and look at other spots from a planning zoning perspective on where we can do it. And I agree with you 100% on walkability. It was something that was in the town plan of conservation development in 2016, which was an action item for us. And I think that we should really step up and do it. And relative to this one initiative thing, we have it in third quarter, fourth quarter of 2023, which is a year from now. I would rather get it closer to the next budget season and go for it. So thank you, Mike. Anybody else have anything to add on this one? Okay, well, look, if anything comes up in your mind, you can either, call me, email me, send it to Fred or Jeremy and whatnot, and we'll move forward.
I just had, Steve, I had one question about it. Do we have any requirement to pass some sort of legislation about marijuana distilleries, like opting out of them or barring them from inside of the town? The way that we had to act on ADUs, or the state was going to enforce sort of the larger mandate on us?
We went back and forth on that a bunch of different times, Adam. And the final answer was no. I thought we had to, because what we did, I think, about 4 years ago, we enacted a moratorium that said we're not going to put these in our town, and we passed a moratorium on it when it first hit. And then we thought about it, looked into it, but right now they're not allowed to do any of that stuff in our zoning code as it is. So they're not allowed in it, so there's nothing that we have opt out of because we can't even opt in.
Got it.
So Jeremy and I talked about it. I think he went to town council and got clarification on it. So there's no action item that we have to do to allow them to come in or not allow them to come in, and because they're not allowed anyway.
Got it. Perfect. No, I wasn't sure, because I remember when I first started last year, we talked about it in the same scope of the ADUs, and then it sort of just kind of went away. And I was reading over this the other day, and I was like, I forgot all about that. Obviously we want to, not allow them to be here in town. So I just want to make sure we didn't slip through the cracks or forget about it in the busy season of everything else.
No, it was not something in terms of growing, because there's two things. One's dispensaries, and the other one is, I think it's, what do you call the other ones? Where you grow, cultivating?
Yeah, cultivation. There's a whole list of classes, from food and beverage to cultivation to medical uses to recreational uses. But
the cultivation and growing part, it lands up has to be an industrial zone. We don't have any industrial zones in Darien anyway. So you can't, if it's got to be industrial, you don't have industrial, so you can't do it here. But that's a good point. Thank you. Anything else on this? No? Okay. This is our last meeting of the year for December, so I want to wish everybody in the month of December happy holidays, and hope everyone gets through this season between now and January safely and fun with your family and kids, especially guys like Adam with little kids. Our next meeting is going to be January 10th. I think on January 10th, the big item we have on that is homeschool. And then we're going to close out that. And I don't think we're closing out Henley and Royal.
So Henley and Royal are continued to January 10th.
They're both, so all three of them are?
Holmes is continued to the 24th.
Okay, I got it backwards. That happens. All right. So those are the two big items there. So everybody have a great time in the month off. Please, if you want anything added to the state of the town speech items or something that's there, send it in advance. Yep. When the draft copy does get finished and finalized, I will send to everybody in advance of that night. So you might get it on Friday or something like that. But everyone in the commission will have.
Do you want me to send you a summary of the real estate market?
That would be great.
Year?
Yeah, that would be great. Okay. We worked on a little bit. The theme is really the change in values of what's going on in town, because I think we have a lot that we accomplished over the year, but a lot of it's also been pipeline for anyway. So with that said.
One last question. When's the reval happening? Is that happening this coming year?
Would be October 20. It would be in October.
With the state? No, I mean the new appraisals at the
every
state
single
level.
town. Every single town. every single town is on a 5-year cycle, but every town in the state of Connecticut is on a different year. Like Westport had theirs. I think we're due.
Yes, we are.
I think it's due 20. It's not this year. It's going to be next year. It's not passed. Right. So it would be.
Is it 23 or 24?
I think it's 23.
Yeah, 23.
23. That's what I thought.
It's 23. But relative to new construction, as soon as new construction happens, like a federal or Corbin district, it immediately hits. It really hits the grand list.
Yeah.
You don't wait until 24 to hit the grand list. Okay. That's it, folks. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Mike makes the motion. Adam gets a second. All in favor? Happy holidays and happy New Year, everybody.
Enjoy the holiday. See ya.
Thank you.